If you study the Big Blues Volume 1, you know how we talked about pedal tone licks, and I combined things in a lot of different ways other than just these parallel fourths and the major third interval of the things we've done up to this point in Big Blues Volume 2. So what I want to do now is close out this entire group of lessons by taking these 5 forms. We've already done the 6-string root pentatonic back in Big Blues Volume 1. So we're going to do these 5 forms and show you some ways of practicing so you have a bigger palette to pull, because it can get boring. Up to this point you start to hear the same sounds over and over again, even though we're in different places on the neck. So obviously there's a lot of redundancy, and you have to go through that as a guitarist. So let's just take the 4th string root E minor pentatonic scale and go through some of the concepts that were presented in Big Blues Volume 1. You know, if you look at your diagram, you look at diagram 2, you can see how you have the 4th as the highest tone. So then you want to practice going through using that as a pedal tone. And then any of the notes, of which you'd have, how many? 12. You have 6 strings, 2 notes per string. Any of those 12 notes you should practice as a pedal tone. So let's take this flatted third, for example. And you can play them melodically like that, where I'm articulating the notes, or play them together. Right? Here we go. So if you get familiar, and technically you can play any of these combinations. Do you see? I'll just play against this slow blues track and use those ideas. I'm playing double stops, but they're not just every other note of the scale. They're any combination, and I look at one tone as a higher voice or a lower voice. So here we go. Now if I use a lower note, hear all those different sounds that I'm getting, because all I'm doing is just playing the pentatonic scale, but not in my traditional up and down business. You see, a lot of people get locked into a box that way. So that was the 4th string root pentatonic. And then remember, we had the pedal tone licks. Take it. And those are really challenging from the articulation standpoint, dampening, keeping it clean, all these kind of things. You've got hybrid picking going on. Go back to Big Blues Volume 1 and take everything that I showed you where I presented it over the 6-string root pentatonic and apply it to each of the remaining 4 pentatonics. So I'll do a little bit of that right now just to get you started, and we'll mix things up. So here we go. We'll go to the 2nd string root pentatonic. There we have what we've covered, all those double stops. So that's one sound. But if I go, that was something that I presented in the latter part of Big Blues Volume 1, where you're playing non-adjacent or non-every other note groups in the pentatonic. And then you have all these other kind of ideas like Could you hear how it started to sound a bit out? Because I was working over here, all these structures where the A was the bottom tone, right? So you had this 4th going on against the track. So you got this E7 sus4 sound. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. Keep your ears open. That's why I said make sure you know where all your roots and your fifths are. Those are the things that you learned before. But what I'm doing is putting another voice in there. You had these double stops that you learned right out of the 5th string root pentatonic. I'll play those with my middle and ring fingers, and then play another note, maybe a pedal tone E underneath it. What I'm doing there is I'm looking at two pentatonic scales. I've got the 5th string root and the 3rd string root pentatonic. I call them double pentatonics. You can call them 3 notes per string, whatever you want. So I'm going to see. There I just kept the B ringing in the bass with a pick, and I played the double stops of both pentatonics. You might say, why would I want to do that? Well, because then I can. Once you've learned these strict 4-fret position forms, then go in and learn the double pentatonics. They benefit you. Even if you don't play the fusion, big stretched out stuff, you'll see more fingerboard. That's really what I'm after in this lesson. In Volume 2 of Big Blues, I thought about what I would do if I give you a whole bunch more patterns and things like that, but I see that a lot of my students have weaknesses. Everybody knows that 6th string root pentatonic like the back of their hand, but you've got to learn these other forms, because the last thing you want to have to do is bail on a great lick that you're moving along the string axis and sliding and getting more liquid and fluid in your playing, and because you move into some area that's dimly lit that you don't see the information. Okay, so I hope this has helped you in getting a handle on the minor pentatonic. We stayed in one key. I know it got a little boring, but I suggest you do that in your own studies. Just stay in E minor pentatonic, plot out these diagrams longhand in your own time, and study the fingerboard. Make sure you know the scale degrees, and also go back and learn all of the octaves and unisons. Here's what I mean. Let me change patches, go to a clean sound here. If I look at my diagrams, if we go back to, for example, diagram 6. In diagram 6, you have all of the pentatonic scales, all 5 forms of E minor plotted out. You can clearly see your borders. So let's look at the 5 and the 1 that occur over on the 1st string and the 2nd string open. You need to know that those same 2 notes are available over in 4th and 5th frets. You can see it. And then the same things are over here. And then ultimately. So those are unisons. They're the same pitches, but the timbre is different. The tone is different. Then know your octaves. So if I'm playing, for example, the 5 and the 1 there, I know that I have them down here. We addressed this when we studied those strong tones. And then you'd want to do that all the way around. And then you'll see unison. So you're starting to see information along these diagonal lines, the unison and the octave diagonal lines. It'll really help you. And do things like play the same lick. Can't play it down there, can I? Because it opens as low as I can go. But see how that gets you into your double pentatonics. I like to do that. Take a lick and see all the different ways I can play it on the guitar. So hopefully this will help you, and incorporate it in your playing of blues, but also any place where you can apply the pentatonic scale, be it major or minor. We presented the information around minor pentatonic, but remember that everything we've done could be thought of as G major pentatonic. The numbers would be different because G would be 1, A would be 2, and so on. But then you could apply it to your major pentatonic tonality. And then when you start playing over more extended chords, major 7s, major 9s, and things like that, all different kind of chords, where you use pentatonics as an upper structure component, you can apply these same principles, and you won't be using a dirty sound for the rock and the blues stuff. You use a cleaner sound. So hopefully it'll help you a lot. And I've enjoyed giving you this Big Blues and Beyond lesson.